Hello, and welcome to the DIR portion of your Basic Texas Purchaser class. We're happy to be a part of your class today to talk about information technology purchases and how DIR is a resource to your entities for your information technology products and services needs. DIR is responsible for a large portion of information technology products and services. As well as an agency, we're responsible for things like IT procurement and contracting services. That includes our cooperative contracts program here at DIR, where you, our customers, can go buy directly through our cooperative contract vendors for things like hardware, software, and technology related services. We also have our shared technology services program at DIR, which is the set of contracts where we do it for you. You tell us the service you need, and we go get that service done with that vendor on your behalf. We also handle data management for the state of Texas and for you, our customers. That includes services such as the Texas Open Data Portal, which is the official state repository of publicly available electronic data. I'll talk more about that a little bit later in the presentation. We're also responsible for the texas.gov portal, which allows all of us as constituents to do business with the state of Texas when the need arises. We provide technology leadership, including setting IT standards for the state of Texas. We also provide telecommunications services to you, our customers. I'll talk a little bit more about those services later. And then, of course, cybersecurity. Keeping the state safe is a large responsibility for DIR as a state agency. My name is Tom Hay, and I've been with DIR for 13 years now, and also have 15 years of state service in. I joined DIR in 2011, and I handle outreach and training to both our vendor community on how to do business with the state of Texas, as well as to you, our customers, on how to utilize DIR's products and services for your information technology needs. I've had a wonderful career path at DIR, and I've learned many things in my time at this agency. Our agenda for today, we're going to talk about some statutes for procurement methods. We will talk about our shared technology services program. I'll also cover our cooperative contract processes. We'll talk about how to purchase IT products and services through DIR. We'll briefly cover some procurement thresholds. We'll talk about the exemption process. I'll provide some statement of work highlights, and then I will leave you with some resources that hopefully allow your jobs to be easier through DIR. If you do have questions after the presentation today, I've included contact information at the end of the presentation, and you're welcome to reach out to us for any questions you might have. So let's talk about a couple of statutes for procurement methods. It is Texas Government Code 2157.068 that does require state agencies to procure hardware, software, and technology services through DIR's cooperative contracts. Now, while that code specifically applies to state agencies, all of you here today are eligible entities to procure IT products and services through DIR. It's also Texas Government Code 2157.068 that kind of puts some definitions to the information technology world. So it is hardware, software, and technology services that are defined as commercial software, hardware, or technology services other than telecom, for which DIR determines that a reasonable demand exists from a customer. That includes things like seat management, or as it's commonly known as end user IT outsourcing. That is where your entity would bring in a vendor to say, manage your computer system for a period of 3 years or 5 years, whatever you negotiate with that vendor. That vendor would bring in all the hardware, the software, and the supporting services for the term of your agreement, manage that for you, and then at the end of the agreement, the equipment would go back to the vendor and you would start over with a new agreement. And then it is Texas Government Code 2170 that again does require state agencies to procure telecommunications services through DIR, as we are the agency responsible for obtaining those types of services. And again, while that code specifically applies to state agencies, all of your entities here today are eligible to procure telecom services through DIR. Couple of things to know about the DIR method of procurement is that we use the RFO method to procure AIS, or Automated Information System, and information technology services. Very similar to an RFP, but RFOs are typically used for more larger, complex type procurements, which of course information technology is a part of that. Also, all of our DIR contracts are awarded in accordance with statute as set forth by the Texas legislature. So we do follow the state competitive bid processes. Our cooperative contracts program then allows you, our customers, to order directly with our DIR vendors by issuing your purchase orders directly to that vendor with that DIR vendor's contract number noted on your purchase order. You can also reference the State of Texas Procurement and Contract Management Guide, which provides additional information on procurement methods that are mandated by the legislature through any government codes. Remember, the classification codes with that AIS component are noted with the yes indication through the NIGB commodity code book that is maintained on the Comptroller site. And for those codes with that AIS designation, remember that state agency contract developers and other purchasing personnel are required to use DIR contracts. And if you ever have questions about those commodity codes, you can reach out to either us at DIR or contact the Comptroller site, and we can help answer your questions. So if you could take DIR and split it into four basic categories, this is kind of what the pie chart would look like. First of all, as a reminder, we are a state agency and we were created in 1989, and our main purpose is to serve as the Chief Information Office for the state of Texas. Our cooperative contracts program allows you, our customers, to order directly through our DIR cooperative contract vendors. This is kind of the do-it-yourself or the self-service model of IT procurements, where you can buy directly with vendors for things like hardware, software. There are technology services contracts available, including our DBITS contracts. I'll talk more about those later. We also have IT staffing services contracts. I'll talk more about those in a little bit. And then it does give us that opportunity from time to time to initiate what we call short-term bulk purchasing opportunities. When we know that certain IT products or services are in very high demand from our customers, we're going to take that information into consideration and attempt to negotiate short-term bulk purchasing opportunities where those products or services might be offered at deeper discounts as compared to the regular contracted discount. So for example, if we know that Health and Human Services needs to order 4,000 new computers, and we know that Dallas County needs to order 3,000 new computers, we're going to take that information back to our computer contract vendor holders and attempt to negotiate a short-term bulk purchasing opportunity. So a Dell laptop that is normally 25% off of MSRP on the Dell contract, if it's on a bulk purchasing opportunity, that Dell laptop might be offered at 40% off of MSRP, but it's only going to be for a short amount of time. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, whatever we negotiate with those vendors. They're kind of what we call our Kmart blue light specials because they only last for a short amount of time. The nice thing about those bulk purchasing opportunities is that for state agencies, No procurement thresholds apply to those procurements. And secondly, all of our eligible DIR customers are eligible to use those when they are in place. And you can buy one item or you can buy 3,000 items if it's available on a bulk purchasing initiative. There are no minimum or maximums. DIR also provides communication services to the state of Texas, as well as to you, our customers. We manage the Capitol Complex telephone system for agencies in and around the Capitol building in downtown Austin, as well as the Capitol building itself. We also provide internet and network operation services and make sure that those services are available to you, our customers. And as I'd mentioned, security operations is a large responsibility for DIR, making sure that those bad actors are kept out of the state's data center. Then on the opposite side of co-op, where you do it yourself, we've got a set of contracts under our shared technology services program where we do it for you. So we've negotiated contracts with vendors and put in place for things like data center services. This also is where the Texas.gov portal program lies at DIR. We also provide the open data portal services through this program, as well as managed security services. So under this set of contracts, it's required that your entity do have an agreement on file with DIR, but it's as easy as logging into a portal. You tell us the service you need, and we go get that service done for you. I'll talk a little bit more about those services in just a minute. We also provide policy and planning through our agency as well. We do that IT strategic plan for the state of Texas. What is that for the next year? What about 3 years, 5 years down the road? Doing that more longer term IT strategic plan. We also provide IT standards for the state of Texas, as well as be a resource to you, our customers, in helping you set IT standards for your entities. And then, of course, reporting on the state of technology to the legislature is always a priority for DIR as well, making sure that the higher ups in government are well aware of what's going on in IT, in the IT world. So who is eligible to buy through DIR? Well, this slide here gives you an idea of who our eligible customers are. Texas state agencies and institutions of higher education, there's about 183 eligible entities. Local governments, there's over 6,200 plus eligible entities. That includes city and county governments, school districts, municipalities, junior colleges, and special purpose districts, things like political subdivisions. We also have other organizations who are also eligible to procure through DIR's contract offerings. That includes assistance organizations as defined by the Comptroller's Office, ERCOT, LCRA, private schools, private and independent institutions of higher education, volunteer fire departments, public safety entities like 911 centers, hospitals. We all know that the medical industry carries a high degree of IT about it anymore. And then we also have a large number of public entities located outside of Texas who, when they have an interstate cooperation contract in place with us, they are also eligible to procure IT products and services through our contract offerings. That includes out-of-state state agencies, local governments, public institutions of higher education, as well as school districts located outside the state. So let's talk about our shared technology services program at DIR. This is the set of contracts where we do it for you, and it's required that your entities have an agreement on file with DIR in order to utilize this program. So DIR has negotiated a contract with a multi-sourcing services integrator, or an MSI. That vendor is Capgemini. And Capgemini kind of acts as the overall program manager of our shared technology services program, as well as the vendors and the services that those vendors provide. So Capgemini handles things like the marketplace and service management functions, the business and operations management, as well as the customer relationship management aspects. Then the specific offerings available through this program include things like data center services. That includes private cloud and public cloud services, as well as mainframe services for our customers who are still utilizing mainframes in their IT worlds. Also available are technology solution services, print mail and digitization services, as well as security operations. The Texas.gov portal is also part of this program. And this is the portal that allows all of us to do business with the state of Texas when the need arises. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Then we also offer managed security services through this program, and that includes things like device monitoring, incident responses, as well as security assessments. And then the Texas Open Data Portal is also part of this program, and that's the official state repository of publicly available electronic data. That allows you, our customers, to post electronic data out on that portal, thereby making it available to the general public. So let's take a little bit deeper dive into our data center services program. Again, we've got Capgemini acting as the overall program manager. SIAC is the vendor who is charged with just keeping the state's data centers safe. So they're doing things like offering privileged access, also setting security policies and standards. They're also doing things like active threat identifications and security incident management, just keeping those bad actors out of the state's data centers. So that's basically what SIAC does, just make sure the state's data centers are kept safe. Deloitte has a contract available for things like technology planning services at your entities, or solution consulting and project delivery services. Deloitte also has a contract available for things like application services. That includes things like application development, maintenance, and support. There are also legacy modernization services available. Maybe you've got some outdated apps that need to be brought into more modern standards. Deloitte also does offer staff augmentation services through the Data Center Services program at DIR as well. Private cloud services, that vendor is Atos, offering things like disaster recovery services, backup as a service, those types of services. For example, we know that the storage for body cameras is unbelievably huge. It takes up a lot of space. So if entities don't have that type of space on their servers, this is where our private cloud services can come in as a resource to your entities. The public cloud manager services, the vendor providing those is Rackspace. They offer things like Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google, and Oracle Cloud Services. They also offer email and Office 365 through this program, and I know a lot of your entities use that program. They also offer GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, for services such as aerial shots or aerial photography. Mainframe services, that vendor is Atos, pretty self-explanatory, offering mainframe support services for our customers who are still utilizing mainframes in their IT worlds. Not entirely everyone has migrated to the cloud yet, so there are customers who are utilizing mainframes. And then print mail services, that vendor is Xerox, and they offer things like managed print mail services, bulk mailing services, digitization and document management system services. So those types of services are available through the Xerox print mail contract. The Texas.gov portal. If you have been online to, say, renew your auto registration or to buy a hunting or fishing license, you have done business through the Texas.gov portal. And this is the portal that allows all of us to do business with the state when we have that need. And there are basically two vendors who make Texas.gov run. One of them is Deloitte, and they are responsible for the Texas.gov portal and the applications and making sure that the portal and the applications are all up and running and supported. They also are responsible for the Texas by Texas Digital Assistant, which is a single source sign-on that allows you to do multiple things on the Texas.gov portal. They also are responsible for the marketing and advertising for the Texas.gov portal. So, in short, if you have been online to renew your auto registration, as you're clicking through those services you need, that part is all handled by Deloitte. But when you go to enter your credit card information to buy those services you just purchased, that part is handled by Tyler Technologies. So they handle payment processing services, make sure that those payments are compliant, and that they are then routed to the right accounting system through the Comptroller's office. Tyler Technologies also offers other payment services for things like payment portals. If a local government needs to put a payment portal out on the Texas.gov portal that would allow customers to pay their utility bills, those types of payment services are also available through this program. We also offer managed security services through this program, and the vendor providing those services is all AT&T. They offer things like security monitoring and device management for things like intrusion prevention or malware detection or managing firewalls. They also offer incident responses for things like, response preparedness, forensics testing. They also offer compliance and risk assessments, things like vulnerability assessments, risk security assessments. You may remember that back in August of 2019, there were 23 counties in the state who were hit with ransomware and it locked down their systems. Through this agreement that those counties had with us, we were able to step in and help get those counties' ransomware removed from their systems. Another example is that all 254 counties in the state have this agreement on file with us, and they use it to secure their election systems come election season. So we always encourage our customers to have this agreement on file with us just in case you need it. You're never charged for any services until you actually use them, but in the event of a ransomware attack, that minutes, hours, and days count. So if this agreement's on file with us, we can typically have boots on the ground within a couple of hours, helping to get that ransomware removed. The Texas Open Data Portal is also part of this program at DIR. And depending on your entity type, whether you are a state agency or a local government or higher ed or a school district, there are many different areas where you can post electronic data out through the Open Data Portal, thereby making it available to the general public. So typically these are larger data sets, things like tax records, DIR, we post our cooperative contract sales data from FY10 all the way up to the current date under the business and economy section. So you can actually go out and see who's purchased what through DIR's cooperative contracts for the last 12 or 13 fiscal years. Another example is that Cap Metro was the bus service provider here in Austin, and they posted their bus schedule out on the Open Data Portal. And there was a company who saw that data and took it and wrote an app for it. And now customers can download that app that's updated every 15 seconds, and people can see if they can walk to their bus or if they need to run to their bus. So the Open Data Portal is a good resource for our customers to post electronic data out on that portal, thereby making it available to the general public. When the Department of Agriculture started posting data on the Open Data Portal, they let us know that their public information requests had dropped by 60% because now that data is available to the general public. There's also the closed data portal available, which allows state agencies to share confidential information back and forth through a closed data portal as well. So you've got access to the PDF version of these slides, and there are videos available on the DIR YouTube channel where you can watch 3 or 4 minutes in length that talk a little bit more in depth about our shared technology services. I've also given you the link to the main DIR YouTube channel. There's other programs out there that you might find interesting, like the exemption process and how to write a statement of work, things like that. We also offer telecommunication services through our contracts at DIR. We do that in three ways. Again, we manage the Capitol Complex telephone system here in Austin. We also have our Texan contracts, and these are our Texas Agency Network contracts that offer our customers things like voice services. That includes local and long distance services, as well as data offerings, and that includes internet services as well. And then there are other telecom services available through our contracts for things like cell phones, smartphones, data. There are conferencing services available that are part of a telecom solution as well. And then there are other managed services available for things like the IT infrastructure for call centers or contact centers, phone systems management for the PBXs that sit on our desks when we're in the office. So other types of telecom services are also available for our customers through our telecom contracts as well. So let's talk about our DIR Cooperative Contracts program. This might be the area of DIR where you might already be familiar with buying through our DIR Cooperative Contract vendors. You don't need to have an agreement on file with DIR in order to buy through our cooperative contracts. And this is where you, our customers, can go buy things directly for things like hardware items, different software functions. There's also technology services contracts available for things like training services, cybersecurity services. This also is where our IT staffing services contracts lie. Our deliverables-based IT services contracts are also part of this program. The bulk purchasing opportunities are also part of our cooperative contracts program. And then for you state agencies, this is also where the statement of work and the exemption review processes happen at DIR. So what are the benefits of utilizing our cooperative contracts for your IT procurements? Well, first of all, they create savings because we leverage that state buying power to negotiate the lowest prices and best discounts that we can with the vendors who propose products and services to us. So we're always containing best value on our negotiations, what's in the best value of the state and of our customers. And then again, it does give us that bulk purchasing opportunity from time to time when we know that certain IT products and services might be in very high demand from our DIR customers. It gives us that short-term, deeper discount bulk purchasing opportunity. It also streamlines the process for you, our customers, because we've already done a lot of that heavy lifting for you. We've negotiated the contracts, we've put them in place for you. So that reduces any purchasing and contract cycle time because you don't need to do that RFO now. So that reduces any duplicate efforts. And then it also gives you access to do business with our hub vendors or historically underutilized businesses. We've got a large number of both prime contract holders as well as resellers available through primes that offer you the opportunity to do business with our hub vendors. Then there's also benefits for the vendors. It simplifies the sales processes for them. It's our vendors who report to DIR once a month what they sold on their DIR contracts and who they sold it to, at what price and at what discount, and if they utilized any resellers or subcontractors. So it's not you, our customers, who report to us what you buy, it's on our vendors to report to us. It also gives vendors access to do business with the public, like state agencies, higher ed, local govs and school districts, and so on. And last year in fiscal year 23, our cooperative contract sales program generated over $3.39 billion in sales last year. And this slide kind of gives you an idea of what that spending breakdown looked like. You'll see that state agencies made up over 26 or 28% of that spending. But local governments and K through 12 school districts made up about 55% of that spending. Now, part of that is that there are simply more local governments and school districts in Texas than there are state agencies, even though state agencies are required by statute to utilize DIR first. Higher ed made up about 15% of that spending, and then assistance organizations and our out-of-state customers made up about 3% of that spending. And that all generated down into almost $400 million in savings to you, our customers, and to the state of Texas. And another interesting note is that of that 3.39 billion in spending, almost 37% of it was spent with our hub vendors. So we appreciate you, our customers, doing business with our hub vendor community. So what types of commodity items or products can you buy through our cooperative contracts? Well, all kinds of computers, desktops, laptops, tablets, the Microsoft Surface Pro series from Dell, Lenovo, HP, all kinds of different brands. There's hundreds of different brands of software available doing any number of different functions. Other things include things like printers and copiers, surveillance cameras, body cameras, drones, and other security related products, typically used maybe by law enforcement personnel. Things like projectors. There are video conferencing equipment, products and services available. We've got classroom interactive products, a set of contracts that focus on hardware and software in the classroom environment. We've recently also started awarding artificial intelligence products and services. So this is not an all-inclusive slide, but more of a high-level slide that gives you an idea of the commodity items that are available through our cooperative contracts. There are also services-based contracts available for things like IT staffing services, technology-based training services. That also includes end user, or I'm sorry, that also includes instructor-led training. There are seat management contracts available. I talked about that example earlier in the presentation. There are things available like cybersecurity services, web development if you need to update or redo your website. There are things available under telecom products and services, things like Zoom and WebEx. There are also interpreter services available as long as they are over the phone or video. That does not include in-person interpreter services. We have a large number of vendors who provide IT staffing services to you, our customers. So if you have an IT need at your entity and maybe you don't have somebody on staff to do that type of work for you, we've got vendors who provide IT staffing services where you can bring contractors in and do IT related work at your entity through a large variety of different job categories. And this kind of shows you the job categories that are available that are IT related, where you can bring those contractors in to do IT related work for you. This also includes specialist areas for things like maybe a drone operator or a digital media assistant, things like that. So there are vendors who provide IT staffing services on contract basis as well. We also have services contracts available for things like application development, maintenance, and support services, or enterprise resource planning services, or data management, maybe IT assessments and planning services. So these are not commodity-based contracts, but these are rather service-based contracts that are project-based and work from a statement of work rather than a pricing index. So these are more project-based contracts. And we've got a large number of vendors who provide all of these services through their DBITS contracts, or we've got vendors that only provide part of these services. And you can see that complete list of vendors on the DIR website under our DBITS services vendor category. And again, we do have that bulk purchasing initiative opportunity from time to time for different things like hardware. You might see computers or related accessories available. Also, we've in the past had different brands of software available on bulk purchase. Or maybe products and related services come from time to time. That would be for things like security products and related services. So I've given you the link to the DIR website on this slide. We invite you to bookmark this and just check it from time to time and see what might be available through a bulk purchasing opportunity, because these can change. So we invite you to check the page to see what's available through bulk purchasing. So when your entity does use DIR's cooperative contracts, when you pull up that vendor page for that cooperative contract vendor, you're going to see common elements that are specific to that DIR vendor contract page. That will include the contract document itself. That will also include any exceptions that were negotiated with that vendor at the time that that DIR contract was awarded. You will also see the Appendix A standard terms and conditions that are specific to that DIR vendor. Your Appendix B will be the hub subcontracting plan that is specific to that DIR vendor. That's going to tell you two things. A, it will tell you if the DIR vendor is self-performing under the scope of their DIR contract. In other words, they're doing it all. They're providing the product as well as all the supporting services for that contract. Or it will tell you, B, if that vendor is utilizing any resellers or subcontractors under the scope of their DIR contract. So keep in mind that vendors can update this hub form at any point during the term of their DIR contract. So they can add or remove resellers or subcontractors at any point. You will also see attached the Appendix C is a pricing index for a commodity-based contract. And that pricing index will show you the brands available and the discount percent off of those brands for a commodity contract. Or if it's a services-based contract, your Appendix C might be a statement of work template if it's a project-based contract. So it will depend on the scope of the DIR contract if you will see as the Appendix C either a pricing index or a statement of work template. You'll also see any other appendices attached as they are needed. You might see service agreements attached. You might see lease agreements attached if they are available. You might also see a statement of work template attached if the service portion of a product does require a statement of work. You will also see attached to the request for offer, which is what DIR used to publicize for vendor responses, and then what eventually that contract was negotiated and awarded under. Then you will also see any amendments attached to that DIR contract that have been processed for that vendor. So use that vendor contract page as your resource to download all your documents for your procurement or your contract file. Couple of things to remember about the DIR cooperative contracts is that there is survivability built into our DIR contracts. So as long as you issue a purchase order to that DIR vendor at any point before that vendor contract expires with DIR, you're okay because survivability will allow it to play out in full even if the DIR vendor contract expires with us. So if you've got a 1-year initial term and 3 one-year renewal options to negotiate with the DIR vendor, but you see that that DIR vendor contract expires with us on November 1st, and there are no renewal options remaining, it's okay. Survivability is going to allow your order to play out in full, and that vendor will still need to keep reporting to us under their expired contracts until all of their orders are fulfilled. We might be over here on the backside trying to negotiate a replacement contract with that expiring DIR vendor contract, but things could be different under that new contract. It could have different pricing or different terms and conditions. Or the other thing is maybe that vendor might not get a replacement contract because sometimes negotiations can break down. So just keep in mind that survivability is built into our contracts as long as your PO was issued to the vendor before the vendor contract expires with us. Also, be aware of any areas where vendors might seek to vary from our terms and conditions. You are allowed to negotiate additional terms and conditions with our DIR vendors, provided they don't conflict with or diminish our terms and conditions. So if you've got HIPAA requirements or CGIS requirements, or maybe if you need additional acceptance criteria, it's okay for you to negotiate those things with our DIR vendors, provided they don't conflict with or diminish our contract terms and conditions. Also, be aware that all of our contracts have priority over almost all vendor documents. So there are some exceptions for things like third-party licensing agreements, or If you're being asked to sign a form by a vendor and you're not sure if you should sign it or not, please reach out to us. Each of our DIR contracts has a DIR contact person for questions like that. Vendors should have routed all of their vendor documents to us when we negotiated that contract. So if you're being asked to sign something and you're not sure if you should sign it or not, just reach out to the DIR vendor contract manager. We can answer those questions for you. So when it comes to buying through DIR, you're going to want to visit the DIR website. And we recently, well, not recently anymore, in 2021, we redesigned the DIR website and tried to classify information a little bit better for not only our vendors, but our customer community as well. So we tried to classify information that hopefully navigates it in a little bit easier way to help you find what you might be looking for. And one of the things you'll see is that we kept this banner on every single DIR page when you are surfing the DIR website. So you will always see this dark blue and light blue ribbon and banner on every DIR page that you are on. And you can also kind of narrow down and do drop downs. If you're looking for IT solutions and services, if you do that little drop down right here, you'll see that there are different categories that you can click on. Maybe you're looking for our DBITS contracts or our hardware or software contracts, or maybe our branded contracts. There are several different categories that you can click on and be taken to a list of vendors who might provide those products or services you are needing. You've also got program areas that you can click on. So if you're looking for our cooperative contracts, or maybe planning and guidance, or our telecom contracts, or information on texas.gov, you can click on certain program areas that will take you to pages that will likely navigate you to the information that you are seeking on the DIR website. One of the neat things we added is the IMA dropdown. So you can use that little dropdown if you're with a state agency or higher ed, or you're a local government, or maybe there's a vendor looking for business or how to do business with DIR. You can click on the IMA dropdown and be taken to pages that will pertain to whatever you are clicking on here as well. And then, of course, we've got the ever popular search DIR function, and I use this daily. And this is probably one of the functions that you'll use a lot on the DIR website. When you are searching the DIR website, make sure you're clicked on the Contracts and Vendor tab, not on the All Pages and Content, because that typically brings back too many responses. So when you are searching the DIR website, make sure you're on Contracts and Vendors. And in that search box, you can search certain brand names or commodity codes or keywords or vendor names. You can type in any types of information in that search box. In a quick example here, let's say you're looking for contracts that pertain to the keyword Microsoft, and you want to see what DIR vendors or contracts offer the word Microsoft. So you can type in the word Microsoft there and click search once you click that word in. And that search result, when you've typed in your keyword of Microsoft, again, make sure you're on contracts and vendor results. And typically, you're looking for contracts, not necessarily vendors or all results or documents. So make sure you're clicked on contracts in this button right here. You can also further down select by products and services or brands available or hub types. And this screenshot here lets you, you will be able to scroll down through the different product or service categories we offer. Or you can simply scroll down to different brands that are available. You can also further down select by hub types if you want hub or non-hub vendors, as well as searching for certain commodity codes that you may be associating with certain contracts you're looking for. So in our quick example here, again, we've typed in the word Microsoft. You want to make sure that you're on contract and vendor results, not on all pages. You want to make sure you're clicked on contracts, not on all results or vendors. Make sure that you're not including any expired contracts. So make sure that that toggle switch is turned off. You can also download your search results here that looks like there's 24 vendor contracts that are associated with the word Microsoft. You can download those search results into an Excel document that can kind of help you sort data that you might be looking for. And I realize this slide here might be a little hard to read, but this is what that Excel document looks like once you download that information from your search criteria. You will notice here that several of the contracts are listed multiple times, but they're the same contract number. That's because there are resellers in column K that are associated with that prime vendor. So under the prime vendor, it's going to show you the contract number. It'll show you the current contract term end date. That is not the full expiration date. That's the current term end date. It will show you if that vendor is a hub or a non-hub vendor. It shows you vendor contact information, and it also shows you the reseller contact information here on the spreadsheet as well, and whether that reseller is a hub or a non-hub reseller. You will see that again in this search criteria for Dell. You'll see that the Dell contract is listed multiple times, but that's because there are resellers associated with that Dell contract. This is a continuation of that spreadsheet. And you'll see here that some of the vendors are only listed one time. That's because there are no resellers associated with those contracts. So you'll want to reach out to the prime vendors here with that contact information to get any pricing information that you might need from those DIR vendors. So hopefully that kind of helps you filter your search criteria. So for you state agencies, the next section I'm going to cover only applies to state agencies. This does not apply to our higher ed, local government, or school district customers. Remember that state agencies are required to use DIR's cooperative contracts, but on occasion, you'll find that we might not have that product or service available. So state agencies are going to need to file an exemption request with DIR when your agency wants to procure an IT item through an avenue outside of a DIR contract or service. We have many different exemptions in place. We do have several blanket exemptions that cover you for certain types of procurements. We also have our one-time exemptions, where if you need to buy a product or service and we don't have it available, you'll probably do the one-time exemption. You'll also need to do an exemption if you want to purchase through a local cooperative, and we rarely see those come through, rarely, but keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that your agency might be exempt from using our cooperative contracts, but you might need to consider other exemptions through program areas. So that would include our data center services exemption, our telecom exemption, or the Texas.gov exemption. So keep those in mind. But today I'm going to walk through the example of the one-time exemption. But before, there is information on the DIR website, and I've provided the link to the exemption overview of how those rules apply to Texas state agencies, and then gives an explanation on the exemption request process. We do have several blanket exemptions already in place for state agencies that cover you for certain IT products or services that you may need to procure. Those include things like emergency procurements, critical needs, the WorkQuest set-aside exemption, things like radio tower or rental or lease. There's software maintenance available, and then there's other IT related products and services available for you to procure through a blanket exemption as well. That includes laboratory equipment, fire alarm equipment, other types of blanket exemptions. So if you do need to do a procurement and you see the blanket exemption listed, simply pull up this page on the DIR website, print this out, and this will cover you for those types of procurements that you need to make through a blanket exemption. Also keep in mind there is a minimum threshold in place for state agencies. So state agencies are exempt from purchasing IT commodities through a DIR contract if your contract value does not exceed $10,000. So if you need to make a hardware or software purchase and the value is under $10,000, you're not required to use DIR's cooperative contracts. We hope that you would use our contracts because we've got some of those items already available. So make sure you do try to reach out to our DIR vendors. The maximum procurement threshold for state agencies is $10 million. So If your total contract value exceeds $10 million in value or more, then state agencies cannot use DIR's cooperative contracts. You will need to do that procurement through the open bid process. So if a blanket exemption does not exist, then your state agency does need to request a one-time exemption by completing and submitting that exemption request form through the DIR portal. And some of the justifications that you can utilize when you do that are things like cost. Maybe you found it cheaper somewhere else, and maybe you couldn't negotiate a better price through a DIR vendor. Also, maybe terms and conditions are limiting your procurement. That's certainly a justification. Or if you have funding source restrictions, maybe it's compatible with your existing infrastructure. Maybe it's proprietary, or maybe it's just not available through a DIR contract. There's other circumstances or requirements that you can justify to us as well. But these are the justifications you can utilize when you submit that exemption request form to DIR to go outside of the DIR contract. Couple of things to remember is that we have the processing time is 15 business days from the date of receipt. That's the date that DIR receives that exemption request from you, our customers. Now, we can expedite those, but you must tell us on the exemption form that it is expedited. We typically process those within 3 business days, but we also need justification from your agency head or his or her designee as to why it is an expedited request. You can find the DIR exemption portal by clicking the upper right-hand corner of the sign-in function on the DIR website. And once you click there, you'll see a couple of different portals that state agencies can log into. The one I'm referencing here is that middle box, which is the exemption request portal. So once you click on that, that's where you can log in with your existing credentials, or if you need to request exemption request credentials, you can do that by clicking on the Need a Login. Or if you forgot your password or you need some help, you can click on either one of those. Couple of things to keep in mind: that once you file that exemption request with us, you're going to receive an email with the assigned waiver number, also the date that that waiver was created and submitted to DIR, and also the category that you selected on that waiver. Remember that exemption requests can be approved or denied, or they can also be withdrawn. If you put one in and you decide you don't need it, you can go in and withdraw it. Also, agencies must wait to hear from DIR to respond before proceeding with any procurement. So make sure you hear back from us before you proceed. Again, just a reminder, under government code, that state agencies are required to use DIR's cooperative contracts first. If not, you will then need to request an exemption through DIR if we don't have it available on a blanket exemption. Also, if you don't see it available on a contract, fill out that new product and service request form, because we look at those exemption requests when they come in from agencies, and they tell us a lot of things. If we keep saying the same ones come through, that tells us we need to get those products and services available. So there's also a video out on the DIR YouTube channel that talks a little bit more in depth about exemptions. Couple of quick things on procurement thresholds and how those apply to Texas state agencies. So again, these apply to state agencies only. And a couple of things to remember: if your contract value for IT procurements is up to $50,000 in value, then your agency can award to a cooperative contract vendor or reseller of your choice. If your total contract value is over $50,000 but does not exceed $1 million in value, state agencies must request pricing from at least 3 DIR vendors or resellers in the applicable category. If your total contract value is over $1 million but does not exceed $5 million in value, state agencies have to submit requests for pricing to at least 6 vendors or resellers in the applicable category. If your total contract value is over $5 million but does not exceed $10 million, then state agencies have the option of utilizing DIR's cooperative contracts for that purchase. But if you do need to request pricing from 6 vendors or resellers. And then again, if your total contract value does exceed $10 million in value, then state agencies cannot utilize DIR's cooperative contracts. You would need to do that procurement then through the open bid process. Certain DIR contracts require a statement of work to be utilized as part of the scope of that project that you might be working on. Those contract categories include our DBITS contracts, our end user IT outsourcing services contracts, or seat management as it's commonly known as, our IT security services contracts, our cloud services contracts when a statement of work is being executed, our comprehensive web development contracts, document imaging and enterprise content management contracts. And also, if you're just doing a complex project for services and you're integrating and customizing, and it's part of an overall solution, we also recommend that your agency submit a statement of work to DIR for review on those types of projects as well. Remember, under TAC Code 212, state agencies are required to submit statements of work to DIR for approval prior to solicitation and prior to contract award for statements of work over $50,000, and it falls within one of these service categories at DIR's Cooperative Contracts Program. The statement of work review does not apply to any support agreements or maintenance agreements, or if it's just hardware or software only contracts that you are procuring from. There are statement of work templates available for both agile and waterfall type of methodologies. Waterfall is a very structured, known outcome. Agile is a little more flexible that allows for things like customization. So there are templates available for both methods. Also remember that threshold requirements, the statement of work review, and the exemption review processes do not apply to institutions of higher ed, our school district K through 12 customers, any local governments, any assistance organizations, or our out-of-state customers. There are hub opportunities available through DIR's contracts as well. So remember to have the most recent copy of the most current hub form in your procurement file. Remember, vendors can update those at any point during the term of their agreement, so they can add or remove resellers or subcontractors. For state agencies and higher ed, make sure you get your hub coordinators involved early, because that hub coordinator needs to seek clarification on what subcontractors the vendor might use and then verify any dollar amounts or percentages. Vendors should be submitting a progress assessment report to you on a monthly basis. Make sure that your hub coordinator receives a copy of that PAR form, because they need to use that for reporting purposes. Also remember that any subcontractors not on the approved HSP form need to be added before they can be used. Remember that our contracts do have hub goals. For other services, it's 26%, or commodity items, it's 21.1%. And if you have questions about the hub form or about the hub program, feel free to reach out to our hub team at DIR. Remember, the hub form is always Appendix B on any DIR cooperative contract. That's where you'll find the most recent version. If you don't see it posted, just reach out to us. We can help track that form down for you. There is reporting requirements spelled out in our terms and conditions that vendors do need to adhere to. And part of that includes submitting that PAR form to you on a monthly basis. Typically, that comes at invoice time from the vendor. So if you do get a PAR form and you see that a vendor is using a subcontractor that is not on the approved hub subcontracting plan, it's important to stop work with that vendor, because that vendor is not compliant. They cannot utilize any resellers or subcontractors that are not on their hub form. So once that vendor updates that hub form with DIR, then work and payments can continue with you and that vendor. If you have any questions about Hub, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer any of your questions. We provided information to our DIR Hub team for you. Remember, we all are required to take cybersecurity training, because we all work in some form of government or another. The cybersecurity training program is governed under Government Code 2054.519. That required DIR to work in consultation with the Texas Cybersecurity Council. We had to certify at least 5 cybersecurity training programs. We've got many more than that in place, but we have to have 5 in place. This applies to all of us who work in state and local governments, institutions of higher education, school districts to a certain degree, and also to state contractors. So the key takeaway here is to remember that any contractors that have access to a state computer system or a database must complete a cybersecurity training program and then provide those completed results to you. That also applies if that contractor might change agencies. If they're working at one agency and take a job at another agency, they may have to complete additional training. So keep that in mind that the contractors that access state computer systems or databases are required to complete cybersecurity training. There's additional information available on the DIR website as well. Remember, TexRAMP is now also in place, and 2 sessions ago, Texas Senate Bill 475 defined a need for a Texas Risk and Authorization Management Program, or TexRAMP. This ensures that cloud services are secure for Texas government services. This includes state agencies, institutions of higher ed, and public junior colleges. So what this bill basically said is if you're one of these entities and you are utilizing cloud services, you are required to use TexRAMP certified cloud services. The list of approved vendors for products and services is available on the DIR website, and I've provided that link to you. You can see that list of approved vendors at any point that have certified their cloud services through TexRAMP. There is additional information available on TexRAMP on that link. You can also reach out to our TexRAMP team if you have questions about the TexRAMP program itself. Also, a reminder that Appendix 24 in the Procurement and Contract Management Guide does provide the TexRAMP clause that you can utilize with vendors if you're utilizing cloud vendors. Okay, going to wrap up and leave you with some resources. So a couple of key takeaways, hopefully for today, are remember that all of our contracts are competitively bid and we follow state procurement rules. For our cooperative contracts program, you do not need to have an agreement in place with us if you're an in-state eligible customer. You then order directly from that DIR vendor and you manage that agreement with that DIR vendor as well. So you manage the contract with that vendor. But under our shared technology services, agreements are required to utilize that program, but it's as easy as logging into a portal. You tell us what you need and we get it done for you. There's also information for vendors on the DIR website as well. If you ask a vendor, do you have a DIR contract? And they say, no, how do I get one? You can refer them to the Selling Through DIR box on the DIR website. There is information on how to do business with DIR. They can also view our schedule of solicitation opportunities. And if they want to certify as a hub business, there is information on hub certification as well. On doing business through DIR, it talks about how to become a DIR prime vendor. It also talks about how to become a reseller or a subcontractor with an existing DIR vendor as well. Vendors can also view our schedule of solicitation opportunities. This is our procurement schedule that we publish on an annual basis, and it shows vendors everything we've got in the planning stage, what's moving forward into pre-solicitation notices, also what is currently posted for vendor offerings, and also what is currently posted on the ESBD. They can also see what we've currently closed and are now evaluating and negotiating. So utilize the DIR website. There's FAQs out there, there's webinars, there's templates. Use the open data portal, go see who's bought what on our cooperative contracts. Utilize the DIR contract manager for that vendor contract. We can help answer any questions you might have. We also invite you to join our mailing list, which is our IT Sourcing Digest. This is a weekly publication that goes to only our customers, talks about what new contracts have been awarded, what legislative things are going on, what contracts we've renewed, or have now expired or have terminated. And you can find that list on the DIR website by scrolling to the bottom of the homepage. And there are four blue boxes. One of them says sign up for communications. Once you click on that blue box, you'll be taken to several different things you can sign up for at DIR. The one I'm referencing here is the IT Sourcing Digest. So be sure to use a work email address because we don't take personal email addresses for that registration. If you do have questions and you need to reach out to DIR, feel free to reach out to Lynn or Lisa or Teresa or me or Clarissa. We're all in procurement or procurement related or hub related or contracts related. We are more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. With that, I thank you for your time today and have a good rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.